On guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make another football poster. This one's going to be about THIAGO, the new Liverpool signing. I hope you guys are excited for it. I am. I made this a few weeks ago and I just thought it would be an easy, simple tutorial for you guys to follow along with and something that we can do together. So hopefully there's enough techniques within this design for you to follow along and actually improve your skills, because that's what I'm hoping for. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this video. I'm going to leave the files in the description below, and I'm going to leave the files to the text I've used in the description below, because you'll have to download a font probably for that, because it doesn't come with the standard fonts. So hopefully that'll all be there for you. I'll leave that in a WeTransfer thing, so you can just download the files and you'll have them all on your desktop. The next thing I want to speak about is all the support you guys have been showing. Thank you so much for all the support, all the subscribers over the last month, I'd say. I never thought I'd even get above 100 subscribers, so the fact that I have is really amazing to me, and I'm really happy that you've come on this journey with me. So thank you so much for that, guys. If you continue to like and support the videos, and I'll just keep bringing them out to you. The upload schedule's a bit shorter now. I'm only going to be doing once a week or twice a week, just because I'm back at university and I don't have enough time to make the videos, but hopefully that'll be alright with you guys and it will give you something to look forward to. Let's get straight into the video. What we're going to start with is something like this. It'll be a picture of THIAGO. We're just going to cut him out using the pen tool. Now, you guys know how to use this by now, so I'm going to cut that bit out of the video just so we can speed it up and not make it too long for you guys. Right, so I've cut him out. He's on our screen now. So the things that you're going to want to add to him is you go to blending options, and then you're going to want to click drop shadow. Now, you can copy these settings that I have here. They're pretty simple. It's just so it doesn't make him look so flat to the ground, because that's not what we want. We want him to look like he's coming away from the background, just so that we can get a bit of depth in the image. So I'm just going to turn the drop shadow on, and as you can see around, it just looks a bit more 3D. So we've got our image. The next thing we're going to do is probably lock him in or turn him off first, and then we're going to get some shapes. So we want to get the pen tool, and then we're going to go to shape, and we're just going to go to the top right corner of the picture, and we're just going to go about halfway down and just click, and then hold shift, click again, and then again. So this is going to be white and the rest of the background is going to be red. If I just get a paint bucket, choose a red that I'd like, and then fill it. As you can see from what I've done there, I've created the overall effect of what the poster looked like. So now we just need to manipulate this shape on top so that it like obviously looks like it's covering the red bit. Right, so the next thing to do to get the shape in place is double click to get the blending options up, and then we're going to go to drop shadow again. And as you can see already, if I zoom in, it's already created a nice little sort of effect. So if I just spread that a bit more, and then I can increase the size or the distance if I'd like, and then just decrease the opacity, or if you want to bring it in closer and just get it sort of more of a harsh edge, you can decrease the size and just have it something like that. Obviously changing the angle will help as well, depending on where you want it. So I'm going to keep it angled 37 minus 37. We obviously get that illusion that the white bit is on top, because obviously it's got a drop shadow onto the red. So that's good. The next thing I'm going to do is add some texture. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is add the texture. So I'm going to turn the image on. So we need him above, like so. That's perfect. We can either add the texture first or after. I'm actually going to add it after, sorry. I'm going to add the text first. So for this, you're going to need to download the font that I leave in the description below. So it'll be a link to the font page, and then you just download and then install the font. So what I'm going to do is just type THIAGO, and that's perfect. Now it's Reisenberg is going to be the font, and I'm going to want it in black. So you can have this as big as you want. It doesn't really matter too much, but you want to make sure that it's in line with the whole image. So what I've done now is I've made the text a little bit smaller, and I've added in his second name as well, just so you know the full information. So I've got that, and now I can add the text that was on the bottom. So that's going to be accuracy and precision. If you just type that out, you can make this as big as you want as well. So it can either be just at the bottom of the image, or you can put it above. I'm not too fussed. And this one at the bottom can be bigger if you want it to, just so it doesn't look so like blocky and like in the same place, I guess you could say. There we go. Now, as you can see, it looks good because obviously it's broken down into two different sizes. So at the top you've got the smaller THIAGO, and then you've got the longer bit at the bottom. Same here, you've got the smaller bit of the accuracy and then the bigger bit of precision, so it sort of stands out more, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm going to group all of the text together, and then I'm going to move it below or above. Probably keep it above. If you don't want it covering the hand, you can always layer mask that bit of text out, but I'm just going to leave it like that because I think it looks good. So the next thing we're going to do to the text is double click on it, and then we're going to add a drop shadow. Obviously we don't want it to look like that because that would look silly. So you reduce the spread, and you can also reduce the size, but you just want it a little bit. You want not too much spread, because obviously it sort of ruins the whole element of drop shadow. Now you can have it coming down like I've got there, because that looks quite good as well. Or you can just have the distance minimal and increase the size and the spread to minimal. Just play around with it. I'm not going to have it very big because I just don't think it looks good. I'm just going to have a minimal size, and as you can see, if I zoom in, text, it's got a tiny bit of drop shadow behind it just to break it away from the back. Right, so that's the text done. The next thing to do is add some shapes, just to blend the dynamic in a bit and sort of add some elements to the design. So what I'm going to do is get my rectangle tool, and I'm going to change the color to black. Now you want to just hold shift and pull. Next thing you want to do is get your angle bit and just turn it on its side like so. Now you've got that there. Now all we're going to do is hold alt shift, and then we're just going to hold shift again and reduce the size like so. You don't want it too small, but enough so that it looks you can obviously tell the difference between the top one and the bottom one. Then I'm going to hold alt again and just reduce the size again. Now this one's going to be a lot smaller than the first one we did. Now you can obviously angle each one differently, just so it doesn't look too symmetrical, because that would just look a bit funny. Now I think that looks nice. Now the next thing I'm going to do is group these together. That's that bit done. Now I'm going to do the same with some circles here. But with the circles, so you take the ellipse tool, I'm going to draw a half decent size circle, and now I'm going to put it on the halfway between the white and the red. Now I'm going to move this below the white, so as you can see it's only coming out along the bottom. This is the effect I want, so I think it looks pretty good. And then we're just going to hold alt again, do the same thing again, and we're just going to reduce the size so it's quite small. Now you want it in line obviously, otherwise that would look stupid as well. And then we're just going to pull the circle again and then reduce the size again. We have the 3 circles as well. Now I'm going to group those, call them circle. That's that bit done. Now what we're going to do is add some drop shadows to these as well, so you can add that extra element of depth to the image and the design. Now that looks pretty good. It's getting pretty close to how I had it before. Obviously I've done the shapes a little bit different in this design just to keep it fresh, but if you want to copy the other one exactly, I'm going to leave a link to the PNG in the files that I'm going to let you download. Have it up on your screen as well, and can follow along completely using all the same techniques, so you shouldn't have a problem. So the next thing we're going to do is add a few more shapes. Now these are going to be smaller circles. Now we're going to add them up here, and they're just going to be little black circles, and then we're just going to do this, and then we're going to select both of them, then alt shift again, and now we're going to select all of them like so. Right, so now I've angled all of these. A few more to just maneuver down, but once we've done this, what we need to do next is make them bleed off the page. So this is going to be quite hard for some people to understand, but I think it's pretty easy. So you select all of your ellipses, and I'm just going to alt shift them again, so make it a little bit bigger. So that's about the right size you want. So once we got all our shapes, right, so hang on a minute. If you just select the top one, then hold shift and go down to the bottom and hold that one, then group them. Now I'm going to name these small circles. Now once you got that, Command T, and then we're just going to drag them off. Now this looks pretty good, if I'm honest. We don't have to have it so much on the page, but you can have it like that if you really want, or you can have some of them showing as they're bleeding off the page. So I'm going to just Command J that, and then I'm going to Command T, so I can transform them. I'm just going to make them really small. I can have some there, and then if I really want to, I can make this group smaller as well, because in my opinion I think they look a bit big. So just make them a bit smaller, and then just adds that extra element of effect. So I'm just going to do the same again and add a drop shadow. So drop shadow, there we go. That just adds that extra element. And now what we're going to do is add some sharper angles, just so they're going to just go like this. You don't have to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to do that. And I'm going to put that around here, and I'm just going to alt shift again, and there we go. There's our angles. So group them together, just going to name them angles, and then I'm going to put these below THIAGO. So I'm just going to have them coming out of the background like so. Don't have to do, as I said, you don't have to do exactly the same, but I'm just doing it how I think it should look. So drop shadow on those as well. Now we've got pretty much all the shapes in place. Now we just need to add some texture to them. So I'm going to leave a file with all the textures in that I'm going to use today. So if you just open it up and it'll have these textures here. Now you turn them off and then they go out of the way and then you turn them back on. So the first one I'm going to get is this paper texture. So I'm going to drag, make sure it's big enough to cover the whole of THIAGO. And then we're just going to clipping mask it to him. So if you drag it above, there you go. Right, so the next thing to do is use your blending options. So you go down, you can use multiply, use whatever you think's best, but it's just to add a hint of texture to him. So I think that probably something that makes him look darker is the best option. It's obviously completely up to you. You don't even have to use it if you don't want to. I'm just going to use color burn. I think that looks good, or maybe a darker color. It's personal preference. So if I use multiply, that obviously darkens the color, but I can always layer mask the bits out that I don't want. So if I get a brush, paint back his face just so it doesn't look too like gloomy. But also if you don't want it on there, you can just turn it off like so. So I think that looks pretty good. I might just reduce the opacity a bit. So about 57% I think looks good. So you can still see hints of it, but obviously I've got it off his face and it just adds an extra element of texture. Now, the next texture we're going to add is to the white shape at the top. This is going to be gritty texture, just so it adds a little bit of grain to the back of the white background. So I'm going to turn that one off and it's going to be texture 10. Drag and drop this in again, same as did before. Increase the size so it sort of covers the whole of the white background. You know, maneuver it wherever you want. And if it's above the white background, all you need to do is clipping mask it to it and just sort of pick a blending mode which works. Obviously you want it to show through on the background a little bit. You don't want it to look stupid. In my opinion, I would probably use something like subtract. I think that gives a nice little representation of what it would look like. But obviously with the camera raw filter, it will get a lot more intense and you'll be able to see it a lot better. So don't worry too much about that. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add some texture to the red. Right, so actually before adding texture to the red, we'll do that last because it might get in the way a bit. We're going to add some texture to the shapes again. So this is going to be the same texture. You're just going to drag it across, drop it in, and just make sure it covers the whole set of shapes you're texturing. And then you're just going to want to put it above the ones you're selected on, and then you can just layer mask it over. So I'm going to do that for all of, you don't have to do this, you can do it your way if you want, but I just find it quicker doing it this way. So once again, I could just drag and drop it over the top, and then it just adds texture to them. So the last one we need to do is the big circles down the side. So if I go find those, so once you use the camera raw filter, you'll be able to see it a lot easier and it will just make a lot more sense. Now, the last thing we're going to do is add some smoke behind THIAGO, and we're going to add an overall texture over the top and then a camera raw filter, and we're done. So if you go to your brushes, I will leave a link in the description to some smoke brushes as well, just for you guys to download. So it doesn't really matter too much about which one you choose. You're going to add a little bit of background effect. Now you can have it any color you want. I'm going to choose white because I think it works the best with this overall, and you just want to make sure it's in the background. Don't want it too prominent though. Obviously you can pick whichever brush you want. I'm just going to make sure I pick something that's a bit more dispersed so it doesn't dominate the whole image. So something like this will work well. Obviously in the background I think it needs to be quite strong, something like that. And then obviously when you use the camera raw filter it will look a lot better. So I'm just going to reduce the opacity to about 70 just so you can see through it. So that's that done. Now the next thing we're going to do is add an overall texture to the top. This is going to be done with two textures. So first I'm going to add texture 10. Come and get that one, enlarge it so it covers the whole document. And then I'm just going to click overlay probably. So it adds it all over, or linear dodge. You can sort of pick which one you want. So you can use exclusion, subtract, sort of any of them to be honest. And so I'm going to use subtract. Then the last one we're going to do is get this texture number 1. Now this is where it will get a little bit better. You'll be able to get some sort of nice textures going, like layering them up, because it will just look better basically. So if I increase the size of that, maybe rotate it so the wrap is on the bottom side, like so, something like that. I think that looks good. And then all I'm going to do is use my blending modes again, just to like overlay it over the top. Now you can use any of them you want. Screen looks good, linear dodge looks good, overlay not so good. And once again, it's personal preference. So I'm probably going to use something like screen, just so it has that extra overlay of the top. Right, so we've added the textures. Now the last thing to do is add a camera raw filter. So if you go down to the bottom, select your red layer and then hold shift and click texture and group it all together. Now Command JE, so that'll come up with the whole thing. Then you're just going to get your selection tool and just drag over the top, and then you're going to select your group 2 copy, layer via cut, so it cuts all the excess background nonsense that you don't need, then delete that, and then select your layer 3, and then you're going to go to filter, camera raw filter. Now it was going to come up with this page. As you can see, that's the poster we've created. I think it looks really good. There's a lot of different techniques you can use there, a lot of shape manipulation, which is something we haven't done much of. This will benefit a lot of you if you follow along with the tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, let me know in the comments what you think. And if I was slow enough for you to understand, that would be really good if you could let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.